Welcome to our last lesson for this unit, 1.11, the Land Transfer Tax. We've been looking at different aspects of our house, mortgages, additional costs, property taxes. One of our more difficult concepts is the idea of the land transfer tax. Now, when we buy a house, there's a tax that we have to pay in order to transfer the title of the property. So legally, for you to own a property, you need to have the title in your name. In order to get your name on that title, there's going to be a tax involved. This tax increases in steps as the value of our property increases. So we will be given the following table. So we've got the value of our property, and we've got our tax rate that we have to do. On our first $30,000, there is no tax. Now, of course, $30,000 is a very small amount. We're usually talking about undeveloped property here. From $30,000 to $90,000, the next $60,000, we've got a 0.5%. Now, again, this is 0.5%, and of course, in math, we don't really deal with percentages, so we do have to realize that that is 0.005 as a decimal. Take this and divide by 100. On the next 60, we've got 90,000 to 150,000, and that will be a 1% tax rate. So again, as a decimal, that is 0.01. Now the next 50 for this chart, 150,000 to 200,000, we have 1.5%, 0.015 as a decimal. And anything over 200,000, it's 2%, 0.02 as a decimal. Now this chart can change depending from year to year, but for this course we will use this as our standard chart. Now to help you out here, you may want to think back to graduated commission from grade 10 and grade 11, where the more you sell, the higher your commission rate. Same idea. We're going to have to break our value of our property into the following steps that are outlined for us, and then calculate the amount of tax for each step individually. Let's look at an example. Calculate the land transfer tax due on a property of $180,000. So what I like to do here is I like to set up my individual steps from 0 to 30 as my first step. So now my value of my house is at 180, so I do fit in the first bracket from 0 to 30,000. I then set up my second bracket from 30,000 to 90,000. And 180 is my total, so I do fit in this bracket as well, from 30,000 to 90,000. Technically, this is $30,001 to fit in my bracket. I look, do I have value in my third bracket from 90 to 150? I do. I'm all the way up to 180. So from $90,001 to 150,000. And then ask yourself, do I have value in the next bracket from 150 to 200? And yes, I do, but I don't have the full bracket, right? I start at $150,001. Now this bracket goes all the way up to 200, but the value of my house doesn't. So I cap out at the value of my house, 180,000. Sorry, I missed a 0 here. We'll throw that in. So once I cap out at my house value, 180,000, I don't go any further. I don't make it to my last bracket because it's in excess of 200 grand. With a more expensive house, I would make it over here. So now you ask yourself, how much money am I actually dealing with in each bracket? Well, from 0 to 30,000, that's $30,000. From $30,001 to $90,000, well, that is $60,000. From 90,001 to 150,000, that's another 60. In my last bracket, from 15,001 to 180, well, that's only 30,000. So I've outlined which brackets fit in my question. I've outlined the number of the amount of money I have in each bracket. Now I'm going to multiply that by each of my tax rates going down the side. And of course, multiplying by decimals. So my first rate is 0. So I'm going to times that by 0. My second bracket is 0.5%, 0.005. When I multiply that through, that is $300. My third bracket is 1%, 0.01. Multiply that through, and I get $600. And my last bracket is 1.5% times 0.015, which is $450. So I now know the amount of tax I'm expected to pay for each bracket. My total bill will simply add these up, and I should get $1,350 in land transfer tax. So in order to get that property into my name so I legally own it, there will be a land transfer tax due of $1,350. Now we can go to our workbook and get started.